Hi, I'm Amy Corr, Chief Brokerage Officer of @Properties Christie's International Real Estate, and you're listening to Core Values, a podcast where we talk about real estate and real life. As someone who's worn many hats, agent, managing broker, coach, executive, and mom, I know the hustle is real. So I'm sitting down with industry leaders and entrepreneurs to uncover the stories, strategies, and values that fuel real success. From being the CEO of your own business to figuring out how to show up for your people, we're covering it all. Today's guests are both successful agents at @Properties Christie's International Real Estate, but they've taken different paths when it comes to investing. In this episode, I'm joined by Blahnik and Guido Piunti to break down what it looks like to build a portfolio alongside your business. We talk about identifying smart opportunities, navigating the common roadblocks, and using investment properties as a vehicle to build wealth. If you've ever been curious about investing in real estate, then this one's for you. So Luke, Guido, thank you so much for joining me on Core Values. I am very excited to have the two of you on here today. We've got a lot of interesting things to talk about, something that I think is so important for our real estate agent listeners out there, because I think so many of us work really hard at helping others with their real estate journey and success. But I know the two of you not only do that, but have also taken real estate on to build your own wealth portfolio and have really gotten yourselves involved with different ways to invest in real estate. So that's what we're talking about today, and I am excited to dive in. So thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. All right, so before we get into all of your words of wisdom as it relates to investing in real estate and the ways to do it, I want to start with your stories because, you're both... you've been doing this for a long time, but I want to understand where you're from and how you got into real estate, because I always know it's kind of an interesting story when I talk to people. So Luke, let's start with you.
Sure. I'm from Sycamore, Illinois,
Alrighty.
a little town 60 miles directly west of Chicago. I got into real estate. I was in college at the University of Illinois, and I took an internship with a home builder called Pulte Homes.
Oh, yeah.
So at the time, I think they were the nation's largest home builder and really got like a crash course in all aspects of real estate. Learned construction, really classic sales training, tons of books and motivation seminars and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then just had broad access to sort of all sides of real estate. So kind of fell in love with real estate then. So that was my inroads. I took a detour, went into consulting for a while after the market crashed, and then got back into real estate as the market was bottoming out.
Yeah. And here you are now. You've got lots of cool things that you're doing that we're going to dive into in a few minutes. But I also have to tell you, Molly, my oldest, U of I,
yeah,
she's going freshman next year.
Congrats.
She's committed a few weeks ago. In-state tuition. Just saying. Guido, let's talk about you and your road to real estate and how you got here and where you're from.
So I graduated from Northern Illinois with a degree in finance and economics. And I had the great idea I'm going to go work in D.C. for the U.S. Treasury Department, which I did for a little bit, and I hated it. It was awful. So I got a job in banking, and I had to start at the bottom. So I started as a head teller at a bank off the Red Line, and I got robbed by gunpoint twice.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, okay, I had enough of this. So before I quit there, the manager pulled me aside and said, we'd like to keep you. Like, you're very talented. We could see you do something. Why don't you get a job in our mortgage department? And I'm like, okay, let me try that. So flash forward 20 years in D.C., I was a mortgage loan officer for a long time. And then when the market crashed, I lost a ton of investment properties, wiped me out. Kind of like starting from scratch. And then I went to Portland and Seattle and worked for a credit union in the mortgage department and then moved back here because my family's back here. So when I came back here, I didn't want to be a loan officer anymore. So I decided to get my real estate license. And I got my license, interviewed with Kevin Van Eck, and he didn't want to hire me.
Kevin,
I tell him this story all the
hard.
time. I know. He's not here anymore to hear this, but you have to make sure he watches this. So that's kind of how I got started. And it's been great ever since.
Okay.
And I picked the right company to start with.
Did you get in the back door? Did you just say, well, forget this Kevin Van Eck. I'm just going to call another managing broker.
So they got me to join a team.
Ah, okay.
They got me to join a team. Okay. And then Yeah, and then I split off with Alexa and started our own team a few years after that.
Yeah.
It's great.
And look at you now.
I know,
Impressive.
right?
Yes. If you all don't know, these two guys both run just extraordinary businesses. So that's why I'm excited to learn so
Thank
much
you.
from you guys today. So I want to talk about investing in real estate. I alluded a little bit earlier to this because I just think it's something for agents. Oftentimes we all get to. Some people get to it sooner than others. And for a lot of us, you're a little different, Luke. You actually started out straight out of college in real estate. Most of us, it's our second, third, sometimes even our fourth, reintroduction of ourselves into a different career. But, I think it's important to start thinking about the opportunity to invest. And I'm curious from the two of you, what prompted you from shifting the focus on your client transactions into, maybe there's some opportunity here, for me to actually, get into this real estate game. And Guido, let's start with you.
Yeah. So, I started investing in real estate, shortly after I got my license, with the guy that now runs, is the CEO of our Airbnb company. He kind of came in that day and I was on a team and the team lead said, why don't you go handle this walk-in? You remember we used to have walk-ins back then at the Ohio office?
Yeah.
And he said, the guy might be a little crazy. He's got all these spreadsheets. I don't understand what he wants to do, but it'd be a good learning experience for you. And I tease that agent all the time about how this developed. But so just kind of starting with him, and he was buying and flipping houses. So he was doing that for a while and making a lot of money and very successful on it. And then he asked me to maybe I want to do it with him. And so the first one we did was a disaster, lost all my money again. And going forward, I just wanted to, start investing in real estate and doing stuff. I feel, we do this on the daily helping clients, and I've seen my clients over the years build these massive portfolios. And now they know what they're doing too. They still come and they still use us. Obviously, they don't have a license, but I think the education and the training, and we see so many properties that we should take advantage of that ourselves. Yeah. And then once you do that, now you see why they have all the questions they do. Like sometimes you get that irritating investor that has a million questions. You're like, I don't want to answer the phone right now because you see the guy's name. But once you put your money into it, you kind of realize, okay, now the question's coming, the concern's coming, you sweat a little bit. But you got to remember, you do this every day for everybody else. Why not do it for yourself?
Yeah, I love that. And, it's kind of similar to when we say just to agents, you need to buy and sell every 3 years because you kind of forget the stress of it all, right? Yeah. But and I do think there's just so much opportunity when it comes to the investing piece, right? I think we as agents, even if we're scared to jump into stuff sometimes, we just see so many things that kind of come across our plates like, this seems kind of interesting. And I do think there is a world of people out there. I had a conversation with my brother one time, and he was sort of like, if you ever have anything that seems interesting, I don't have time to figure out what would look good. Let me know. And, so I think that even if agents aren't ready to take the full leap and say, I want to do this on my own, I think there's people out there that if you have enough stuff, kind of, this guy presented it to you, right? He walked into your conference room and was at least had the forethought to say like, look, I've got spreadsheets. I'm interested in doing this. Help me find what I'm looking for. So I think that was a cool segue for you. But then you took that next step, and it also doesn't mean, right, that you have to put all your money in. I think there's like creative ways to probably dip your foot in at first, be part of a deal and kind of learn as you go. Would you agree?
Totally agree. Yeah, for sure. It's all different kind of ways to structure deals.
Yeah.
And they get more creative as they go. And the more open-minded the people are that you're working with, the more creative you can be with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, it's kind of this depth to real estate too that isn't just, buying a condo, selling a house. There's this whole other avenue. And then Luke, you've been very interesting and creative. You own a bowling alley. You bought it and renovated it. I remember, was it 2 years ago that I was talking with you and Anthony, and you guys were like, we're going to feel so much better once this boutique hotel is finished, because you were putting a lot of love, sweat, tears, money into that. But I also know you've done a lot of multi-units. So how did you kind of get into, again, just transacting in real estate to really looking at how do I want to invest and build a portfolio?
Yeah, I think like my brokerage grew out of participating in real estate. So, I was selling homes at a master plan community, more like maybe a car salesman than a realtor, right? And so we didn't have a license. We were just selling out of a trailer. And when the market crashed, I was fortunate that I hadn't bought anything yet. So I was sort of had a clean slate. And I was working in consulting, and I was watching the foreclosure markets here and watching the judicial sales. And some of the prices coming across just seemed unbelievable. So I took a leap of faith and I quit my job on my 25th birthday, and I came back to Chicago and got licensed and started buying foreclosures at auction. So a friend of mine and I scraped the money together. We'd buy a condo, sort of figure it out on the fly, go figure out how to get possession of the unit, how to renovate it. I knew nothing.
Wow.
I didn't know how to, literally nothing. This is the first things I've ever owned, right? I didn't know anything myself. So, we learned how to do everything, how to refinish floors, how to swap countertops out, how to paint something. And so ultimately I got licensed as a general contractor because we needed that to be able to pull permits. And condos turned into single families that we were renovating into 2 flats, into 4 flats, and it kind of just grew that way. And out of that, and just looking at real estate constantly, sort of grew the business, which was, we should be brokering for other people too. Because you'd see these great opportunities and no one wanted anything at the time. And you would just be telling your friends and family about it and trying to get them to participate in real estate.
So you kind of flip-flopped really, as opposed to being, obviously you had your stint at Pulte, which I'm sure had, some great experience there of, the sales floor and, learning some of the sales aspect. But it sounds like, what you just mentioned is you really kind of came in on the investment side, and now your resale and introducing clients to things is now because you've done, so much of that. And so question for you, kind of getting into it, like if somebody's out there thinking, I'd love to, kind of bite off or do some of the things that any of these gentlemen are, doing. Do you focus on an area? Like, what are some of like the first steps for people? Because I think it sounds great. Like your story sounds amazing, but it probably took you 10 or 15 years of like pain and mistakes and, real bad times and crap. We just lost that deal and lost all that money. Like, it seems easy now that you're on this other side.
Sure.
And so I know it's not so glamorous, but like if somebody's out there thinking, I kind of do want to figure out how to start, like, what is a word or two of advice? Like, do you focus on a location? Do you kind of focus on a unit? Do you figure out like where your money's coming from first? Do you kind of have a team together so that if you find something, you can move quickly? Like, what would you say?
Great questions. I think, real estate's not a passive investment. Like this are active investments. And so if you're going to buy something, make sure you're comfortable going there all the time and you want to own it. I think that's sort of my guiding principle of like, become an expert on an area, spend a bunch of time somewhere, get familiar with it so that you know what's good from what's bad. It's like going through the racks at a thrift store and like you identify what has value and what doesn't. And once you have that, you have to be prepared to own this thing probably for a long time. You're going to visit this property 20 times more often than you think you are. And, and you're going to deal with issues that you can never anticipate. So if you don't like it, fundamentally, don't buy it. So find something you like, and that was sort of our guiding principle is I was buying brick buildings on wide lots in Logan Square and Avondale that we saw value in. And that still sort of remains the guiding principle. Now we look for opportunity and interesting things a bit broader, maybe like you geographically expand a little bit, but spend time and become an expert at something. And that will pay the dividends. And it makes you better at your craft as well as a broker, just because you know things and you've seen every property on the market and you can rattle off facts to people, and it just makes you that much more dangerous as a broker also.
That's all good advice. One follow-up to that, because Logan Square, has had such a renaissance over the last 10, 15 years. I remember selling there, 20 years ago, and you started seeing it. Was there any of that where you're like, I think that this neighborhood, I know you live there, so you personally sort of invested in being there and what it was going to become, but were there signs or were there things where you recognized along the way, like, these are smart investments because I'm seeing this happen? Like, was there anything that was like, this is moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I was fortunate that right out of college, I went to the apartment source and got in like the back of a Volkswagen Bug and zoomed around Chicago looking at apartments and landed on the square in Logan Square. And so, that was just fortunate, right? And so you're in this neighborhood, you can see it happening. You can feel it. Like the cool restaurant pops up or something blossoms and you see how great the housing stock is and how nice the neighborhoods are. And, the people that are there love it and care for it, but the values are just depressed. So it felt like such a logical place. And, I would go and check out a bunch of different neighborhoods just to make sure I wasn't like exercising some sort of home field advantage or some inability.
Or even like blinded
exactly,
by it, right?
To
Because you
see
liked
what
it
was,
so much.
was really out there. But yeah, it just became clear that like I don't know if there are better and greener pastures, but this is one that we absolutely want to own some of this property because it feels good all the way around.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you see people moving into the neighborhood and you realize, oh, a lot of these apartments need renovation. We can buy them, renovate them, and switch it up a bit and bring it to a different group of renters who want to pay a little more for a fully renovated apartment. So that was like the impetus for the opportunity, yeah.
And I feel like it just then things kind of snowball, right? Because you just, I think kind of anything, momentum begets momentum, and then you just get better at eyeballing things. So I love that. You guys have done a lot of really cool stuff. And I have good friends that are in Logan Square. I helped them buy a house there 23 years ago, and we still laugh about it, but it's like they're never moving out.
It's a great area.
It's awesome.
It really is. It really is.
So cool. I mean, obviously I told them that they should buy it.
Smart.
Right?
Smart.
Yeah, because I knew. So Guido, let's talk a little bit about your investment journey because it's a little bit different,
Sure.
and you and I have talked a lot about this, but you're much more in the short-term rental game, which I also think is a very intriguing spot for a lot of people. I know myself and a good friend of mine, we own an Airbnb in Michigan, and I also have one unit, and we're doing well, pretty good, and we're learning a lot of things along the way. Also, we were managed by a company, and now we're kind of doing some self-management. But tell us a little bit about your journey, how you kind of got into that.
Sure.
And any just words of advice or thoughts if people are thinking the short-term rental game is interesting, particularly in a city like Chicago, because I know that for Airbnbs, while it used to be kind of sky's the limit, there's a lot of different ordinances and areas that are really kind of cutting down on what you can and can't do.
Yeah, for sure. But real quick, going back to the question that you asked him about people that are trying to get into this and don't know what to do, lean into people here at Properties that know what they're doing, right?
Yep.
When I didn't know anything about multi-units, I sat with Kevin Rossio, and I know I drove him crazy, right, Kev? Going over spreadsheets and how do you figure out what is a cap rate? Talk to people that have done it because you won't make the same mistakes. I mean, maybe you do, but at least you can ward off some of those mistakes and things like that. So I would say lean into people that know and that have done it, and then get your questions answered before you step in. The Airbnb thing, so our Airbnb company is structured now, and our partners are structured that it's not a main source of income for anybody, except for the two guys that run it. It's more of a retirement vehicle for us down the road. So 100% of our profits are rolled into expanding the business and doing that, so that when we retire, we have kind of like a Social Security check from the Airbnb business, because we're all at different ages. Like the young CEOs are in their early 30s. I think the oldest guy is getting ready to retire next year. I've got a while yet, but that's kind of the premise of how it was set up. But the same guy that was doing flipping that I helped with, that I met in a floor call, a friend of his called and said, I got this Airbnb in Wrigley. It's driving me nuts. Do you just want it? Like, I don't want to take it over anymore. I can't deal with these people. And it was just one, and it drove the guy nuts. So my partner took it, and then he took another one, and this guy started giving him names of people that wanted to do Airbnbs. And then he approached me because in order to expand it, they needed money, right? Any type of an investment you're going to do, you're going to need money. So that's kind of where it started, and it's probably grown. I think we have like 30-something in Chicago. We just took on 4 more, and then the Airbnb laws started changing in Chicago. So it started getting more difficult. The licensing started getting more difficult. So we started expanding elsewhere. And now we're at the point where the cash flow from these Airbnb businesses is significant enough where we can start buying property and owning real estate. So we bought a couple buildings up in Wisconsin. There's a boutique hotel in Costa Rica. So it's starting to develop that way. So it's great. It's different. I don't operate the day-to-day stuff. You were saying you have to get in there and get your hands on a lot of stuff. I'll help, find places for them and write contracts and do things like that. But we meet once a month and we go over our numbers and everything like that. And so it's been great. But it's more of a, I can't do too many things at once, but I don't like my eggs all in one basket. So I try to spread spread out a little bit with that stuff.
Yeah, and that's a cool opportunity because, while you helped with some of the real estate early on, what you've really become is an investor, and you're in this group, which is nice. I think, the thing too, sometimes for agents is it like, do I have to go all in? Is this all me? Because that is a little bit more, of the path you took, Luke, even though you probably had, partners in your team and your group, but, it is a more like, we're all in, we're buying this whole building, we're creating a bowling alley, we're doing it all. So, I do think there are different, ways to get into being able to invest in real estate. And, and I think the thing that's kind of interesting, and Luke, in our pre-call, we talked a little bit about this, but, look, the stock market right now, knock on wood, right? We're seeing that it is a pretty great place to put your money.
Right.
And, so I'd love for you to kind of talk about the fact that, stocks are a great place to put your money. You want to put some of that into the portfolio, but some of the I think that for real estate agents in particular, there's some really nice benefits to investing in real estate. But if, as you had said, if you're expecting to turn around and have a ton of cash in 2 years off of this investment, that might not be the best avenue for you if that's what you're looking for. But if you're looking to diversify, I think you had said the thing you like about real estate is it's dirt, it's physical, you own it, you can see it, it's you can touch it, you can visit it, and there's something to that, and it's a longer term. But there's also advantages that you've been able to tap into as a result of owning real estate. So I'd love if you could talk a little bit about that, because I don't know if all agents really know some of those advantages, even from both of you, like what you've been able to do.
Yeah, I think, so the first sort of principle is that you're levered, meaning you can buy a building, let's say for $1 million hypothetically, and you're putting down anywhere from 10 to 30% on that building. So you own something worth $1 million, but you put down $100,000. And if that building goes up 5% in value, that's $50,000, and that's like a 50% return on your money. If it goes down, the same thing is true.
Yeah.
But being levered is helpful. Like for me, that was exciting, and I'm like, okay, I can buy big things with less money. So that was an exciting reason to get into real estate. And that's, if you're buying in areas where the market has gone up, that's been a very good thing to own a bunch of property in areas where the values go up across the board. I think, so that's sort of like one tier. The second is when you buy a place, you have a mortgage payment, and there's a portion that goes towards interest, and then there's a portion that goes towards principal. It's very little at the beginning, but then over 3, 5, 7 years, those principal payments start becoming realer. That's people's owner-occupied homes or investment property. So if your tenants are paying the rent or they're paying the mortgage with their rent, you're accumulating principal reduction in the building. And then there's kind of like the tax advantage, which to me is maybe the most compelling part for a real estate broker to participate in real estate. And that's, you can depreciate the value of the building over usually a 30-year schedule, but current tax code allows you to front load a lot of that depreciation, and you get like a real big bite of the apple in year 1 or year 2 of owning a building, and then smaller bites for the next 29 years. And that loss that the building gives you can be applied against your income and reduce your tax burden. And that's a very powerful vehicle when you're making money in brokerage to be able to lessen your tax burden, keep more of your money, and sort of it has an effect to be able to sort of propel you to continue to invest and incentivizes you to continue to invest in real estate.
So let me ask on that. So because if people are thinking this out there, if the house is going up in value or the real estate is going up in value, you can still depreciate it enough against your taxes, right? So you can still say this is a loss to me, even if the value is increasing year over year.
Right.
One does not have to do with the other.
The IRS is agnostic as to how much it's worth today versus what you bought it for. They say, okay, you bought it for $1 million. In theory, things are going to break and wear down, so we let you depreciate that down to $0 over the course of 30 years. But currently, you can take, especially if you renovate these buildings, you can get really big, what they call cost segregation studies or accelerated depreciation, where you can front load a bunch of the depreciation.
So if I put like, let's say, $50,000 into the building up front, I can take that full $50,000.
Most of it in year 1, including a bunch of other stuff in the building. They're going to break the building out into a bunch of categories: appliances and staircases and wood floors and drywall. And then a lot of those categories get accelerated depreciation. So you get a big loss. So it makes the building harder to sell because the building's worth less on paper.
Got it.
So when you go to sell it, the IRS looks at that and they say, okay, it looks like you made a lot of money here, But if you intend to hold the building, there's a lot of advantages to doing that. And yeah, we've found a lot of success in that, and it makes you want to buy more and more of them as you're making money in your day job.
Yeah.
To sort of offset that.
So last question on that. So, okay, I buy it for a certain amount. I put
Yeah.
some money in it. I then invest it. I'm able to write all this stuff off, from the tax piece. But let's say it's a 3 flat to make it easy. And I've got 3 renters in there. And what is there any method to that madness? Do you want to, break even on cash flow, or is it okay to be under on cash flow? Like, does that impact the depreciation? So let's say, I don't know, my mortgage, just to keep it simple, is $3,000
Yeah,
with taxes
sure.
and everything all in. Everybody's $1,000.
Yep.
So I'm getting $3,000 in, I'm paying $3,000 out every month. Is that a good thing? How does that impact depreciation? I just am kind of curious.
So the depreciation is separate from the
Great.
cash flow.
Okay.
At the end of the year, you're going to run a financial analysis on the building and show how much rent was paid, what your costs were, and the building is either going to make money or lose money, and that will also affect your taxes. So yeah, you could have a building that becomes an absolute cash cow and prints money. That's a good problem to have, not a bad one. So
Right.
no, it's okay for buildings to cash flow, but cash flow is hard to find, especially right now.
Right now.
Interest rates were, when they were low and buildings were cheap, it was pretty easy to go buy a building and have it cover all of your expenses every year. That's hard at the moment. So I think you need to be focused on the other principles of, hey, what's this building going to do long term? What does my financial situation look like in 10 years if I own this building and I diligently pay the principal every month down? And what are the implications from a depreciation standpoint of owning this building? And then the cash flow will come, like rents go up over time. Your mortgage payment largely stays the same depending on what your property taxes do. So the cash flow generally comes later. But usually, I think to me, we're focused on value, buying quality assets
Sure.
that we want to own for a long time.
It's much more of a long-term
For sure.
hold. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So on the Airbnb side, Guido, I want to ask, I feel like a lot of agents, like even us, when we did it in Michigan, it was like, we got into 3 Oaks. And then, a year later, it was like, in fact, I have to do it like when I get off this call so that I'm not the one that doesn't get our application or our permit for next year.
Yep.
But, now they only allow a certain amount of Airbnbs, even in certain
Yep.
regions in Michigan. If I'm an agent who's like, I kind of like the idea. And the reason why we liked it is we loved going to Michigan. Unfortunately, we weren't in a position where we could just buy something and let our friends use it on occasion. We both said we could buy something together, rent it out, the majority of the year, and then just take the weeks or the weekends when, we want to go, which has been awesome for us. And so I think it's what a lot of people envision that they want to do. What is your take? Like, are there certain, rules sort of in Chicago right now that people need to be aware of? Or are there any places that like you guys are exploring where you think it's a great opportunity to dip your toe in as
definitely.
an Airbnb
Definitely.
investor?
Definitely. And what Luke said too, like we totally agree with, you got to own the real estate. And that's how our Airbnb business is set up. Is most of our buildings or units are actually rented from guys that own huge buildings. And like in Pilsen, for example, there's a guy, I don't know, there might be 130 units in that building. They're all apartments, and sometimes there's ones that he can't rent, or in locations in the building that can't rent. We were talking about this earlier. So we rent them, and
And then
it's
Airbnb
arbitrage
on
the
top of that.
Airbnb on top of it. So in our lease, we're allowed to Airbnb. And it's the cash flow that now is going to buy real estate. So he was talking about, you go to your day job, get your cash to buy your next investment.
Yeah.
Well, we've designed a system where I'm not digging into my day job money to create the cash flow to buy these buildings now.
Got it.
So that was problem one. We had to solve the cash flow, and then it costs, $15,000 to $20,000 to furnish a unit. So now that the cash is flowing, now we have money, and we do the exact same thing you do, and you were talking about, buying quality buildings, doing the tax deductions, doing the write-offs. But in Chicago, we started expanding out because Chicago started clamping down on the Airbnb business. There was a company here, Sonder, that used to be big in the Airbnb space, and that's when it's kind of the Wild West of Airbnb. And then the city started changing things because they got pressure from the hotel lobbyists. It was kind of like Uber taking over taxis. They didn't want that to happen again, so they pushed back a lot. And now you could only Airbnb 25% of any one PIN number. So if you have a 4 flat, you can only Airbnb 1 unit. The other ones have to be traditional rents. In any lease that we take over, we make sure that we can survive if Chicago crushed Airbnb altogether. Mm-hmm. So we make sure that the numbers make sense if we have to turn around and rent it so that we can then pay our rent or get out of our lease. But there's now they've added another layer to it where not only is it 25% of any one PIN number, but now it has to be your primary residence. So it's knocking the space of the two units, the 3 units, and the 4 units that were great Airbnbs, and that's why you don't see a ton in the city anymore. Anything 5 units or more, the licensing doesn't apply. Up to a max of like 6 units in a particular building. So now we're looking at and partnering with and going after these guys that own big apartment buildings. And then presenting them with what we have, and that's been pretty successful. Mm-hmm. So that's how we're able to expand in Chicago with the tightened regulations. Short of that, go somewhere else where there's no regulations.
Yeah.
But be mindful that the regulations might catch up there one day.
Yeah.
So, we always make sure we can rent these things out at market rents and be okay with it.
That's like the backup plan.
Yeah. And the buildings we buy, we're buying in areas where the regulations are slim to none. Mm-hmm. So that way we can Airbnb all the units.
Yeah.
But again, we make sure that the market rents there would cover, because if somebody comes into the ones we own in Wisconsin and says, you know what, can't Airbnb anymore, all these rules start coming into play. A lot of the big major cities we have to stay away from, but there's places in Arizona, California, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania that are great. So,
And we were talking about this a couple of days ago, but just also with the use of AI or chat, I was saying to the two of you, how do you put a pro forma? I know, big word, right? But how do you put a spreadsheet together? Yeah. So if I'm an agent out there and I've got some interest in, kind of a different avenue or something similar to either of you, it's like, how do I, get myself started? Because I think, to get the money, if you don't have it available as an agent, the first thing that you're going to have to do is figure out who's interested in investing in something, who might be curious, right? But then your next step is, I've got to start figuring out what look like good opportunities in this market right now, whatever those might be. But then in order to bridge the gap between investor and great opportunity, I think is this little thing called a spreadsheet, which it's, what is this going to look like on paper? And for the investor, what am I going to make? How long is it going to take? And am I going to, get cleaned out if I do this, right? And I think as agents, that sometimes is the sticking point. But now I feel like I just did something last night on chat, and it was just amazing how much I put in, and I kept fine-tuning questions, and it came out with just some incredible data. So do you guys use that at all now? I think, Luke, you probably have like a spreadsheet from 20 years ago that you still fill in. But graph paper, yeah. How would you encourage an agent to kind of, sort of bridge that gap to get like a pro forma or just something that shows the financials to get into that actual next step of execution?
Why don't you take that one?
Sure. Love AI. Pay the $19 a month for the ChatGPT. Don't use the cheap version. But I used to do a spreadsheet for my clients, and if you think about it, it's very simple. Like that spreadsheet is full of formulas, which I didn't understand. And again, Kevin Rossio's spreadsheet. I'm not paying you anything.
Just copy and paste it, right? And just reuse it.
Yeah, but you're basically taking data, right? Whether it's be rents, expenses, your down payment on the mortgage, your interest rate number, and you're plugging them into your formula and plugging them into your spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. So I took that spreadsheet and created something in ChatGPT, and now I just click on ChatGPT and I say, this is the interest rate, this is the expenses, this is the water bill, this is the rent, this is the blah, 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 blah. Anything I would write on that spreadsheet, I talk into my phone, and it spits out my data for my investor. Then you could, like you said, you could start tweaking it. Okay, now I want you to go back in and rerun the numbers based on the average growth rate in Logan Square over the last 5 years. What is the growth rate? 5 to 7%? Is it 1 to 2% property appreciation? And it scours everywhere, the paid version, and it'll give you, okay, moderate is 1 to 2%, average is 5 to 6%. Which one do you want to use? Well, let's throw 5 to 6% in there, and then give me an evaluation in 5 years if I put $100,000 worth of renovations in there. And then it'll ask you, Well, on the renovations, do you think you'll get 100% of that back, 40% of that back? Do you want to be conservative? Let's say 40% of the renovations you'll get back what you paid for in 5 years. And then it calculates it, and it gives me all the datas and the formulas. Now, when I take that information and give it to people like Kevin or some of the guys that are using spreadsheets, it's
Do they get
almost
mad
the
at you?
same or close.
Do
It's
they get
almost
mad
the
at
same
you?
or close as what the spreadsheets are spitting out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like it. So it takes me literally no time to run these analyses. At first, it's a little scary because you want to make sure you're giving your client the right data and the right information. But you can set it up so it knows how to do it. And the more data you put in there and the more you talk to it, like it eerily remembers a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it'll say, do you want to compare it to the numbers like you did in Logan Square? And then it remembers everything I did in Logan Square, whatever the area might be.
Right.
And then I ask it to dumb it down sometimes based on my client. Is my client like super nerdy, super smart, super whatever? Do I want to make it more number oriented? Do you want to make it, or do I just want it like I have a doctor client right now that knows nothing about numbers, knows nothing about the transaction? So it just kind of puts everything in layman terms for me as far as the investment goes. And then you kind of got to remove, ChatGPT likes to give you their opinions on everything. So just remove the opinion part a lot of times and you'll be done with it.
Think about how much faster you're able to get to an outcome. Like even if you have to go back and check
15
certain
minutes
pieces,
maybe and I'm done.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you used chat yet
No,
for any of these
can
things?
I say that like this scares me and I hate all of this?
Lean in,
We'll
Luke.
try it on
Lean
your-
in.
Dude, I'm a dinosaur. I
We'll
can
try
feel
it
my
on your next
extinction
property
coming.
and see what it puts out. See if
It's
it's the same
over.
Totally.
as your spreadsheet.
We'll have you do it manually, Luke. We'll have, and you'll take a few hours.
Sure. Right.
Guido will
We'll
do
do
it.
it and we'll go have
We'll run to
martinis.
Starbucks. Yeah, we'll have some martinis.
We'll
We'll
go to
come back
Paul's
and
office.
see if the math is the same. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I like the part about integrating historical data and averages. It's good if you're using the tool to find things that you might not have readily available to incorporate and build a nice sheet. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And if it's going to clean it up and check your math and make sure your math is better, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But like, what's a pro forma? Like, it's a forward-looking
Yes.
model that's making a ton of assumptions about what rent's going to do, what are values going to do, what's going to happen. And so I just think you just need to be as careful as possible
Sure.
when you're crafting that, because like these assumptions matter.
And they could be wrong.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
I
they
mean,
could get
anytime
it
if you've
wrong.
ever gone to look at a building where the broker hands you an offering memorandum and they've got hypothetical rents kind of to justify their list price, and you're like, well, where did these come from? Like, oh, this is just what we think. You're like, oh, that's nice.
And you just throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, I'll
or-
take the actual rents and we'll look at the building, please. Just because anyway, it's powerful, but it needs to be accurate.
Sure.
So just
Yeah,
the
the
computer
accuracy-
can't do everything for
Right.
you.
Accuracy is important.
Right.
So-
And having a mentor or somebody who can do it on a spreadsheet or on graph paper themselves. But I do think there's ways that you can, use AI to, kind of speed up some of that process and kind of use that in tandem. So I love that. You guys, I could talk all day long with you and we could get in a lot of trouble. You've got a tattoo to remove.
I know,
and a few
right?
other things. I don't know what you've got going on, Luke. But before we leave here, I do have the funnest part of Core Values, which
Great.
is our rapid fire.
Right.
Speed round with Luke and Guido. So just a note, speed round, because
Okay.
sometimes people don't recognize the speed part of rapid fire.
I'm ready.
All right, so we're going to start with you on every question, Luke, and then we'll go straight to Guido. Luke, you first. What was your first job ever?
I delivered newspapers in 4th and 5th grade.
So did I. I did it with my
Did you?
brother. Look at all of these. Yes. Yes. I was sort of like, did all the stuff for him and he delivered them. But yes. What about you, Guido?
Painting for my mom's construction company, and then a dishwasher in my dad's restaurant.
Look at you. I love that. They were instilling that great work ethic and
collar.
working it
That's
out.
good.
Yes. All right. What would you be doing if you weren't in real estate, Luke?
So if I don't have anything to do, I carry garbage bags and a poker in the back of my car, and I pick up garbage when I don't have anything to do. So I would be a garbage man.
That you would be a garbage man?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. They were saying, imagine if garbage was, what was it, energy? I think I saw it on the side of the waste management truck the other day. So there
Marty
you go.
McFly,
It could be, it could be your next journey. All right. What about you, Guido? What would you be doing if you weren't in real estate?
Probably something in like donating my time, helping with charities and stuff like that would probably be
I mean,
what I
you
would like to
guys,
do. I mean,
garbage man.
But, I mean, if
donating
money's no
charity-
object,
I
yeah.
didn't say that.
And
But
then,
if money was
okay,
no
well,
object,
yeah.
okay.
If money
okay.
was no object.
What a
All
guy.
right, I love it. Luke,
Between the vacations, though, let me.
Between the
Could you
vacations.
ask me that again? I'm kidding.
I'm a full-time vacationer. If you could only have one meal for the rest of your life, Luke, what would it be?
I kind of do this now. I eat a McDouble and a large Diet Coke every day, nearly every day for lunch.
Look at him. He's like so skinny too. Like, where does that all go?
Yeah,
Oh
so I
my
already
God.
do it. Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, Guido, if you could only have one meal for the rest of your life.
Pizza. It has all the 5 food groups.
Totally. Oh, this is so fun. All right, Luke, if you could represent anyone in the world as their agent, who would it be and why?
A family member. I like helping family buy real estate.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, like Oprah or anybody big like that. Obama, no?
No.
Just family?
no,
God, you're just
maybe. Okay, I got one.
so good-hearted
J.
there.
Cole, the rapper. 'cause,
Okay.
Yeah, we just listened to some
Cool
demos.
tunes. Yeah. All right. All right, Guido, if you could represent anyone in the world as their agent, who would it be and why?
I would say I looked at that more as an industry thing. So maybe like a rock star or a movie star.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've helped a few Fortune 500 people before, like the CEO of Kraft Heinz, like people like that. But I think it'd be fun to go out with like a rock star or a movie celebrity and just kind of like look at stuff and work
Totally.
with them.
And be like, are you sure like money's really no object? You know? I love that. All right, Luke, what was the first concert you ever went to?
The Counting Crows
Oh,
in 1994.
Oh my God, how young are you?
Are they like
fourth
hard
grade.
to handle? Isn't that their song? Is that Counting Crows? Oh no, I'm thinking of Black Crows, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Counting
but Counting Crows,
Close.
I got
Yeah.
Jennifer
had the
Aniston,
Crows
the
in
lead
it.
singer.
Yeah,
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 sorry.
yeah.
But I love Counting Crows too. Round Here, that's
Yeah,
it.
that's
Yeah,
it.
there we
You
go.
got it.
All right, got it. What about you, Guido? First concert?
Kiss 1977 with my mom and my brother.
Oh my gosh. Do you know, not that
still
it's
have the
about me,
ticket.
do you know my first concert?
What was
You'll
it?
never guess. AC/DC.
Oh, that's a good one to start with.
Right? I don't know why, kind of random. All right, last question. What's something people would be surprised to learn about you, Luke?
My favorite store is Dollar Tree, and I
Okay.
could just walk through the aisles all day and just buy things for $1.25. Yeah, I love that store.
Oh my gosh, so great. I bet your wife's like,
Not
great, what am I getting for my anniversary this year? Dollar Tree
Yeah,
it is.
10 ibuprofen.
Yeah, right.
Not the driverless car we were talking about in the lobby? Or
No.
Leave that out?
No,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, you, Guido, something people would be surprised to learn about you.
Then I'm going to get a tattoo removed after this.
I love it. Oh my God.
But besides that, like I've been on House Hunters a couple times, and I was on a TV show called Grimm when I lived out in Portland.
yeah.
Yeah, I was on there for not a whole season, but a couple episodes.
Look at that.
So
Wow.
a little actor in me.
I love it. I love it. You guys, thank you so much.
Thanks.
This has been so fun. Oh my God, thank you. Yes.
All right.
Oh my God, thank you so much. And to all of you out there, I hope you learned a little something about what it's like to invest in real estate. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Core Values. Thanks for listening to this episode of Core Values. If you loved the episode, be sure to hit the follow button so you don't miss the next one. You can also connect with me on Instagram and LinkedIn for more insights on all things real estate and real life. And always, as a friendly reminder, you got this.